you do your own PR, it's step by step. You hire somebody like me or like Rich, and we can do it all at once, but we're gonna charge you a lot of money. It's just because we're doing it all at once, right? You get what you pay for. When you do it yourself, you're running your business, and then you're marketing your business. So have patience with yourself, and you wanna build in a schedule that is step by step, so that it's okay if you do an hour of your PR time every day. Over the course of time, you're gonna get far. So I just wanted to caution you to take your time and to remember that it's baby steps and it all builds up to something magnificent. And that's the point. Even with the PR campaign that you would have me or Rich or someone else do for you, it's not gonna happen overnight. It's all about the gradual build and the steady, consistent messaging, okay? This is just about media. And as I said earlier, public relations is not equal to media. Media campaigns are a very small part of public relations, but let's face it, a lot of people want that exposure. So you want to get in the paper, on TV, on the radio. One of the reasons that people hire PR firms is because we have access to all of those contacts. We can get media lists, we can build them, we have media relationships, so it's easy. I can call up my friends who are all coming tomorrow for a panel and say, hey, what do you think of this story? But that's only half the battle. The story has to be good. And so I happen to be able to write it in such a way, because I've been a journalist for so long, that they want it. And I write it the way that they're looking for, and they can put it right in the paper, as I said earlier. So let's learn how to do that, okay? So first is the idea, okay? You gotta have a great idea. And the thing is that everything about what you do is fascinating to you, just like your babies, like when they poop, you think it's great, nobody else does, okay? So the thing is that nobody else is gonna love every little detail of your business, so you have to fine tune it, and that's where it's helpful to speak to someone, a consultant, like me, like Rich, like someone else, and run some ideas by. How much better to invest for 1 hour to brainstorm it and come up with the right focus, so you know that your story is gonna hit. But you gotta dial it in. So here are some keys to a great idea. 1, universal truths, okay? So whatever the takeaway is in the story, is this applicable to a lot of people? If it is, it probably has a good chance of being a good story. The universal truths. Is this meaningful? Is there a takeaway? Is there a lesson for a lot of people? Number 2, is it timely? So when I talked about the divorce attorney and we did the how to have a loving divorce pitch, the timeliness was that it was Valentine's Day. So is it timely? So if you're gonna tell me, actually I'm gonna give you a great example. I'm not gonna tell you who because I don't wanna throw anyone under the bus, but I have a wonderful nonprofit client whom I love, and they were partnering with a for-profit business for a fundraiser, and this for-profit business raises a lot of money for them. They brought in their own PR person for their own business, and it just so happened that they asked this person to do this nonprofit fundraiser. So we were supposed to work together, which happens all the time in PR, so I was excited. But she was a little threatened. She kind of wanted to, she was brand new for them, and she wanted to prove her chops, right? So she wrote the pitch, which was awful. Mine was good. I'm just kidding. She wrote the pitch, and I gave my feedback, and she included really high up the context, which I'm going to take you through in a minute, but that's sort of like the so what, like give me the meat of this, the background, why do I care about this story? Why is it meaningful? And it referenced Hurricane Katrina. Anybody remember when that happened? How many years ago?
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years ago, okay? And I said to her, you might, it's meaningful that this ties back to that, but that's pretty long ago for a news pitch today. You may want to find something a little more current rather than putting Hurricane Katrina really high up. It's 2013. Well, they didn't take it out because they didn't want to listen to me, and that's fine. But the truth is that timeliness is really important, and she had a hard time placing that pitch because it just wasn't written well. It was too obscured. Like, why are we back at Katrina? That was not here. That was a long time ago. Now I've lost focus of what this news pitch is. It was really off kilter. So the timeliness is important. They still raised a lot of money for the organization, so all is well in the end. It has to be newsworthy. What's the news? Is there something about this, or is this just everyday stuff? Like sending out a pitch about kids attending classes at Walsh College, it's not interesting. If there's a new class that they're offering and they have droves of people signing up, that's newsworthy. But classes happen here every day. So That's not newsworthy. So you have to distinguish between what is and isn't newsworthy. And then finally, and this ties into the universal truths, is you need takeaway for the general public. So if I offer a story and all of you can see yourselves in it and you can learn something, or maybe your life can get better because you purchase a service or a product that is promoted in this pitch, that's a pretty good story. You're helping people, right? Okay? So all of those things, okay? So a couple of things that you might want to do, and some of you would, I'm sure, are thinking, I don't know what I would pitch to media. What do I have to say? And that goes also with the confidence and the value question, which Donna and I are going to address tomorrow. But what are 5 great ideas about what you do? You know, you can come up with 5. So if you don't have a story that, you know, something's happening next week, you have a new class starting, or you have a new art showing, or whatever it is, you don't know that time hook, that news hook, that really interesting universal takeaway, start with 5 things that are great about what you do. And let's start to brainstorm it, okay? Then you do a little bit of research, which is really easy in the age of the internet, because that's how you add universal appeal. So when I was working, you know, on Catherine's family yoga pitch, I said, all right, the news and the time hook, that's that she's offering family yoga, prenatal yoga, spirit baby yoga, but it needs to be relevant to the general public, and a lot of people are scared of yoga. I'm not sure why, but they are. So I have to make this interesting and relatable. So I did some research, and I found out all kinds of great statistics about how yoga helps families and helps kids to get better grades and reduces the suicide rates and depression, and really good research that beefed it up. Okay, so you have your great idea, you have the timeliness, you have the newsworthiness, then you need the research, okay? And then you got to answer the question, why now? So, you know, loving divorce, Valentine's Day, that's why now. That's why not in March. Why you? Why that divorce attorney instead of another? And the simple answer might be because she pitched it first. But it's also the core of her business, which made it an easier sell. It really came from the heart. So when she gave that speech, when she gave the interview on Channel 2 and in other places, it was genuine. She walks the walk every day. So if I pitched a divorce attorney who loves to litigate and loves to get there and argue and duke it out and, you know, bill a lot of money in hours, you know, they may not have been able to pull that off. That may have been a, why him? It should have been her, right? Why is it you who should be that source on this story? And then why not? What do you have to lose? If you write the worst story in the world, it has no time hook, no news hook, it's not really your bailiwick, and you pitch it, and you don't get anywhere, oh well, start again, right? Why not? Don't paralyze yourself with fear, because there is something about everybody in this room that's really fascinating and newsworthy, and if you package it right, you'll get somewhere. So why not? Okay, so there are different theories and approaches to how you write a press release. I don't write traditional press releases because I was trained in journalism. So, you know, when I came to PR, I didn't even intend to come to PR. I thought I was getting into corporate communications. And so when my first client, the grocery client, said, can you do our PR, by which he meant media, because I was actually already doing PR and I didn't realize it. I said, okay, I've been pitching media on the other side for a lot of years. I guess I could do it for you. I bought books and I taught myself how to do public relations and I studied, but I really just wrote a pitch the way I would write any journalistic story. And I find that it works. So I'm teaching you my way today. If you go and you look at how to write a press release online, you may or may not get the same approach, and you should do what works for you. But I'm sharing with you the journalistic approach because frankly, I find that journalists respond well to this. It's familiar, it's user-friendly, it's exactly the format that they need. So let's not reinvent the wheel, right? So there's something called the inverted pyramid. So if you just think of it as upside down, you know, the foundation is at the top. And they used to do that in journalism because if you wrote in an inverted pyramid style and the editor found that they needed to cut lines before they went to press, they could just cut the bottom paragraphs because the most important stuff was at the top. And that's really important in this day and age because people don't have a long attention span. So the most important stuff should be at the top. You don't know that they're going to read past the first line. So why make them wait for the meaning in the 5th paragraph? Start with the most important things. There's something called a lead, which actually isn't even spelled that way. It's normally spelled L-E-D-E, which drove me crazy because I am a word nerd and I spell everything correctly, and that's how journalists spell it, and so here I had to do it a different way. But the lead is something that draws attention. It's your introduction, and it should really pull you in. So when I was a journalist, I would try to grab the editor's attention in order to sell them my story idea, so they'd give me the assignment and pay me to write it. And now I'm trying to grab the editor's attention so they'll take my story and my client will be happy. So you need to pull somebody in, grab their attention, not just, it was cold yesterday, I don't care. But if the wind blew at 75 miles an hour and upended a house, I'm listening. That's interesting. That's different, okay? Then you get to what's called a nut graph, which is a paragraph that explains, in a nutshell, this is what the story is about. In a nutshell, here you go, in that paragraph. I pulled you in with something really interesting. Now I'm telling you why I'm even telling you this, okay? And then one thing you gotta have in a pitch is quotes from quote-worthy people. Who is the voice? Who's the expert? And you have this in front of you. We're gonna go through it again in a minute. But you need voices in there. So chances are I'm pitching a client and I need to get their exposure for their company. So I'm gonna quote them. You're quoting yourself, right? You're the authority. You're the thought leader. So you need dialogue in there. You can't just tell a very boring story. You need to change it up with quotations and don't make it sound stilted. Talk the way you talk. Talk the way everybody talks. The details make the story, which is what we found out earlier this morning when we were starting to talk about your stories, that those little details, bossy, big mouth, looking for love in all the wrong places, all those things add up to make a really good story. The more specific you get, the more universal it is. So again, and this is in the handouts, 5 W's and H, who, what, where, when, why, how. That's all the basics. You got to cover that. And what matters versus what doesn't. And sometimes that happens in the editing process. So a lot of times what I do is I just write a press release, knowing I'm going to go back to it. I don't give myself the pressure of being perfect the first time out because I build in some time. So if I know that I need to send this out to media in 2 weeks, the client needs to approve it before I send it out. So I want to have it done in a week. That gives me time. I sit down, I write it. It can suck the first time out of the starting gate because I can edit and I can make it better. And that's when I'll look at, I wrote this paragraph and I just don't think it matters. It's interesting to me, but it doesn't really tell the story. And remember that this has to be tight. This could be like a page if printed out, at best. A couple of examples before we get to work. We have time. What makes something newsworthy? You don't have Valentine's Day. You don't have a ready-made news hook. So is there a new study or research out that's pretty recent that supports something you're doing? Take a look. You're probably going to be able to find something. Or something about your industry, or I don't know, find it. So here's a couple examples. The recent Detroit bankruptcy. That was a very specific story. But if I had a client who was a bankruptcy attorney or a finance expert, I should really run fast as soon as Detroit filed bankruptcy and offer that person to the media as an expert source. So I don't have a client like that right now, but I wouldn't even write a pitch. I would just call up my friends at the TV station or the radio or the Free Press or the news and say, I've got a great voice for you, to talk about the Detroit bankruptcy. Would you like to talk with them? Okay. With elections, last year we had a presidential election, and my chocolate client, Chocolade, it was really fun. They made chocolate donkeys and elephants, and they packaged them in red and blue. And they sold them on the counter, and they were doing a contest, which was a great thing to pitch to media. So we sent it out to all the local media, Birmingham Eccentric, the Bloomfield Eagle, all that kind of stuff. Very local. And actually, I think we did get some TV out of it. But the point was to see whether the customers were more Republican or more Democrat. And I think it was like $1 per chocolate pop of donkey or elephant. And they kept a running tally in the store every day. Well, that's pretty clever. That's how you get chocolate in the media around an election, right? And we made calls to all the local offices of the candidates and the campaigns and said, you guys want to buy a bunch? And some did. So there were extra sales. That's public relations. That's creating an initiative that builds relationships with key publics and gets in front of people we might not otherwise have gotten in front of. Anything in popular culture that's going on that you could sound off on, that you could be an interesting, different kind of a voice. So Dancing with the Stars is a really big deal. And one of my clients is Fred Astaire Dance Studio in Bloomfield Hills, and Evan Mountain, who owns it, will be on the business owners panel tomorrow. And he's a great expert to offer to media when Dancing with the Stars starts up again. In fact, he's going to be on WDET a week from Monday to speak about that. And so that's brilliant, you know, to get him out there because it's timely and everybody's into it. And one of the things that I'm pitching a magazine locally is sort of behind the scenes of the ballroom dancing craze because it's a really interesting subculture. So everybody wants to take dance lessons, but it's a whole world unto itself with fascinating things going on. And that could also be a fashion piece because, oh my gosh, those outfits are amazing. Anytime you got the Kardashians, if you have an expertise on marriage, money, or reality TV or train wrecks, you could offer yourself, you know. Couple others, you know, holidays, we talked about the Loving Divorce, events. I've done PR for Yoga Moves MS, which is a fundraiser for yoga that heals or soothes people with MS. Habitat for Humanity of Oakland County is a client, and they're doing a big event next month, and the focus is this silent housing crisis in Oakland County, which is one of the wealthiest counties in the country. So that's newsworthy, and the time hook is that there's an event coming up. Awareness months we talked about. Okay, so why don't you open your packet, and I'm going to show you a couple things. If you just start with the front page, PR pitch example, I'm going to walk you through this, and then we're going to get to this stuff, and we're going to start to write a little bit. So it starts with, "Hi, Alexandra." And this was a pitch that I got, you'll see it below, from Alexandra Kirsch. And she's a young woman from Huntington Woods who is a friend of a friend. And she went off to New York after college and wanted a career in PR. And my friend introduced her to me. And you know, she thought maybe she'd work for me or intern for me, but then she went to New York, and that's fine. But we were friends on Facebook, and she kept in touch every so often, which was very smart of her. And as she's building her career, it's good to know people in the industry. And she started working for a small publishing company in New York. And she apparently read my blog. I blog daily, by the way, which we can talk about, which is a great goal. And she kept up with me. And she sent me a pitch when she thought the book was appropriate for me, okay? Because I do blog. I'm considered sort of media. I mean, I do have a lot of readers. So if you want something about your business out there, you need to consider bloggers, not just traditional media. So she wrote, you know, "I hope you're doing well. It's been a while since we last connected, but I've followed your blog, Nourish Cafe, since we met back in April 2010. And this was from December of 2011. You have a really strong writing style and have a really well-established balance between personal, professional, and spiritual stories in each entry." So in her pitch to me, that first paragraph showed that she knows me, and she studied what I write about. So she's not wasting her time and blindly sending things my way, which PR people do all the time, okay, all the time. And then she says, "I'm writing because I'm working with author and cousin Bill Broder on his book, A Prayer for the Departed, and felt that because his writing captures his Jewish American life in Detroit, you might be interested in receiving a copy and perhaps working together on a feature." Well, she had me at hello. I mean, she did. Because I had such respect for the fact that she had respect for me and my time, and she knew who she was pitching. So I was willing to read further. You know, this is a young woman, and we all know the things about 20-somethings nowadays. She defied all of them. And I was so impressed that I read on, and she really targeted it for what I'm interested in. So my response to her was, you know, I want to commend you for writing a truly personal email. It's a targeted pitch. So think about that when you're pitching someone with your story. Why them? Why you? Why now? Study it. It doesn't take that long. She probably doesn't read my blog every day. She might read it every few weeks or every few months. I mean, from April 2010 to December 2011, maybe she read it 5 times, but she got it. And I was convinced, okay? So turn the page where it says your logo here at the top. And this is how my press releases look, okay? And this is what is on this slide over here too. So I usually put my client's logo at the top because if the graphic is going to come through in the email, it's something visual that's going to grab attention rather than words. And we just heard from Rich Donnelly that the visual really is important in standing out from the crowd. Okay? And then there's a title, and as you can see, it says, grab attention from your first words. What is this about? Some really great title. Don't be boring. Don't ever be boring. You have way more important things to do than be boring. Subtitle expands upon that title. So the main title is big, it's dramatic, it grabs attention. The subtitle elaborates. Then this is PR speak for immediate release. That tells the media outlets that you can use this right away. And in our internet economy, they mean right away. It could be on Twitter in 5 minutes, in 2 minutes, right? So give them permission. There are such things as embargoed stories, which means, that you can't use it until whatever date, embargoed until November 1st. Well, I just don't even recommend doing that. Send it out when you're ready to get it out there. To the right, it says month, date, year. So you put the date so they know immediately it's available. So if I send it out today, October 26, 2013, for immediate release today, go ahead, use it. Contact. Who's the contact person? If it's you, great. If you have an admin or somebody who assists you, put them. So you might be talking about yourself, but they're the contact. It shows a little bit of distance, And then the phone and the email are to the right. Make it very easy for them to find you. You notice that that's even above the story. The date line is the city in all caps and the state in an abbreviation. And then you get into the lead. So as it says here, the lead is a sentence or a very short paragraph that starts the story and draws in the reader. What's so important? What's so interesting? What's so compelling? I like to then go to a quote, hear a voice, okay? And then I go to that nut graph. I want to draw your attention further down the page to where it says company bio paragraph, which is also known as a boilerplate, and every company should have one. And that's a paragraph that really encapsulates very succinctly who you are, what you do, and for whom. And I've worked for months on boilerplates, and I've done it in 5 minutes. So it just depends. You got that story, you've got that audience, you put it together, a little bit of, Catherine Austin founded Karma Yoga in 2003 in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Those nuts and bolts. That's in everything we send out, okay? I would like to let you guys jump in and start to write a little bit. How do you feel about that? Yeah? You ready? All right, start to write. You could jot it down. You could do it in this format, whatever it is. And if you don't even know what you want to pitch to media, do those 5 ideas. Those 5 ideas, and I'll go back to that slide, and start there. 5 great ideas about what you do. So at least you walk out of here with a little more focus, or you walk out of here with a pitch. And we have a lot of time. So let's take, 15, 20 minutes to really try your hand at this. We'll be walking around the room. Leslie and Karen will walk around the room, and Donna and Nick and I. And if you have questions, let us know. And then we're going to reconvene and talk about what happened. Okay? Any questions? Go for it. Absolutely go for it. What do you do with this pitch? So you're going to write a fantastic pitch, maybe 5, because you have all these great ideas, and it's newsworthy and timely and compelling, and only you can offer it. So the first question is, how do you know who to send it to? Now, if you have somebody like me in your court, I have all these databases and relationships, and I can put together a media list fairly easily. It's harder if you're not in the PR industry, but it's not impossible, especially with the internet today. And all media people are accessible online. So you want Channel 2, go to myfoxdetroit.com, look at the staff. All of their emails are there. The phone number for the station is there. If you go to the Free Press, Detroit News, whatever publication you want, in their byline at the bottom, the little caption of who they are, it usually has their email and possibly their phone number. Okay? So it's really easy to find people. You need to do a little bit of digging, but you can do that. And if you look for 5 media people in your area each day, you'd have a media list before too long. And every so often they switch jobs, and you just have to be aware of that, and you call and it's not that person anymore. Oh, did you replace Jay? Great, nice to meet you. I'm so-and-so, and he was really helpful, and I'd like to get to know you now. What are you covering? And that kind of thing. Okay, so you need to know who you're sending it to. Chances are, if you're in a very local place, you're sending to a local publication or a local TV station or patch.com or blogs that you read in your industry. One thing that I just mentioned to Carol over there, she had a great idea for a story in the office supply industry, and the light bulb went on, because you can do regular stories or TV segments or radio interviews, but one thing that's underutilized that's much easier to get into is to write an op-ed. Anybody heard of an op-ed? Opinion/editorial. It's a first-person piece by somebody with expertise, and it appears in the opinion section of the paper every single day. They're looking to fill that all the time. One of my really dear friends from college is Stephen Henderson, who's the editorial page director at the Detroit Free Press. He oversees all of that. And he has spoken to college classes of mine that I've taught before, and he talks about how not only does he have to fill the pages of the newspaper, because even though it's only delivered Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, it is printed every day. But he has to fill those pages, and he has to fill the online editorials, and he has to fill the blogs. He's got a lot of space to fill with opinions. So it's not just, here's what I think, I'm Joe Schmo. It's, I'm an expert, and here's my expertise, and this is why I can tell you this very supported opinion. And you still throw in your research, but your expertise, your voice matters. You're a thought leader in your industry. So Carol was talking about an idea. Do you want me to share it? So she sells office supplies, and she said, you know how much teachers spend on the supplies? The districts just don't have the money. So what if in the holiday season you gave your kids' teachers gift cards for office supplies? Brilliant, right? Brilliant, thank you. Carol, we need to talk about that, because 4 kids, so. And as long as I don't have to go out shopping, I'm very happy. So, that's coming up. That's in 2 months. So wouldn't that be timely in December, as kids are getting ready to go out on Christmas break and people are crazy with holiday gift buying, that if she writes a piece as this leader in the office supply industry for a long time, that here's a great idea, and she pulls in some research about how underfunded schools are and how low paid teachers are and how much they pay out of pocket for their supplies. And here's a great idea, a solution that we can all, the community can build the schools. I can't imagine that an editor passes that up. So you email the pitch. You start with email. Because even if you call them, they're going to say, well, can you send it to me? Okay? But when you email the pitch, you're going to have to follow up with a phone call. Because if they don't know you, they're not going to respond. And don't take it personally. It has nothing to do with you. They're just very busy. And so they get the email, and then 2 days later you call, and you say, hey, this is Denise, and I just sent you a great story. What do you think? I think it sounds familiar. Can you resend it? No problem. I'm going to send it right now, so it's at the top of your email, and I'll call you back tomorrow and see what you think. When are you on deadline? I'll call after that. I don't want to bother you. Be very respectful of their time and understand that they don't have a half hour to talk to you, which people are going to tell you tomorrow on the panel. They'll tell you exactly when to call and what to do. And you just persist, and you don't call every day. You call in a good amount of time, and you only let it go when they tell you a firm no, or when the holiday season passes and nobody took it. Okay, then you can maybe reframe it and go in another direction. If it doesn't fit, if Carol can't sell it in the holiday season, then maybe she takes that idea and she reframes it for another time. Maybe she sells it to an education publication, or she sells it to bloggers who write about education or families, or mom bloggers are a big deal, that kind of thing. So you don't give up. You try once and you don't get it. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. If this pitch doesn't hit right now, think about, that video you saw about adoption of older kids. I pitched that right after the presidential elections last year, like November 10th-ish. And it didn't get air until December 24th. And I have a client who's waiting. What happened? What's the results? And luckily it's a client who understands this process. But I was sweating it out a little bit, I thought, I have this great idea. I'm brilliant. Why aren't they taking it? They took it, but I had to persist in the appropriate amount of time and be respectful and gracious, knowing that they're doing you a favor just as much as you're doing them a favor. Okay? And then if nobody takes it and you get someone on the phone, ask for some advice. Hey, Randy Lou, I know you're not interested. I'm so sorry to bother you. Do you have 2 minutes to give me some advice? How could I improve this pitch? Believe it or not, I've done this, and I'm a PR professional. So I have a lot of friends in media because I was a journalist for a long time, and now I'm in public relations. And I did a story that I thought was brilliant and was like a no-brainer, slam dunk. And nobody was taking it. And so I emailed it to a girlfriend of mine at the Detroit News who's a columnist, and she's written for major magazines all over the world. And I said, hey, Laura, what am I doing wrong? Where did I miss on this pitch? Can you educate me? And she took the time to read it and to give me feedback. You know, this paragraph, you're totally missing this opportunity, and this has to be up here. And I'm like, oh my God, of course you're right. Of course you're right. I just needed somebody to show me how I could do it better. And I was so grateful. And you can bet that I wrote her a handwritten thank you note after that, because nobody gets mail anymore, so that really makes you stand out, right? And you know, if I can do anything for you, I am so grateful that you gave me that time. I know you're on deadline for a column twice a week, so thank you. Not perfect. Not every story hits. A lot of them do. They don't all. Question?
Yeah, my question is the follow-up after the submission of the press release, because a lot of times, like, what will happen to us is we'll do a festival or something, right? And the media will be all over it, you know, taking pictures, blah, 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 asking me questions. And then I won't hear jack. It's the weirdest thing. I'm like, how in the crap do I know? You know, I don't live in Milford. We do a festival in Milford. I don't know when this story is going to come out. I want a copy of it for my website or whatever. How do you follow up effectively? And people usually just ignore me. I know that they're busy.
So you're talking about a media person, or you're talking about the festival planner?
I'm talking about, like, the media. Like, when we appear in media, a lot of times I have to just really, like, chase down. You know, what are some strategies for that?
Well, being humble and just understanding that they don't care if you get it, you know, because it's not their job and they're working really hard. And so it's up to you to find those clips. And I mean, I have to chase them down. I have to ask Leslie's husband on a Sunday to go pick up the Oakland Press because I can't get it near my house and I'm out of town or whatever it is. And we need to get that for the client. And if we miss that, we have to buy a back copy and pay extra, and that's just what you have to do. So sometimes it's calling the reporter back and saying, hey, when did that run? Can I swing by and grab a back copy? Do you mind? Or, you know, do you mind letting me know? They're probably not going to let you know, but they might if you build a relationship. You could always send a thank you note after, and the more you're in touch with them, the more you're going to stand out in their mind. The other thing you can do is that this media person, they interview you and they're giving you exposure and you want to get a copy of it. But let's say you have a friend in the music industry or in whatever industry that's on their beat, which is what they cover, you know, so maybe it's Milford or whatever it is. And you give that reporter a call and say, hey, Susie, you know, this doesn't affect me, but I have this friend that might be interesting to you for what you write about. I just wanted to pass it along. Good Samaritan, you know, and it endears you to them. I do that all the time. You know, I had a call yesterday from the Free Press food editor, and she's doing a piece about how Thanksgiving and Hanukkah are the same this year. And, you know, I'm like the Jewish person that people know. So she's just like, you know, what foods are people going to have at the Thanksgiving table? And of course, I texted my sister who hosts it and was like, are we doing latkes at Thanksgiving, or are we doing that another day? And she's like, I don't think so. But anyway, so she asked me, who do you know? And I said, I'll call you back by Monday, even though I have this conference this weekend, and I'll find out, you know. And then I said, you know what? She didn't just want food. I said, well, my parents get to have all 10 grandchildren in the same physical spot for Hanukkah for the first time since they've been grandparents because it's Thanksgiving. That's a pretty special story. I'm sure my parents would like to be interviewed if you're interested, but I will ask around. So if anybody knows a story, by the way, let me know. But you know, she called me because she knows I'll give her a story even if it doesn't benefit me. And so she's going to listen when a story does benefit me, you know.
I mean, is there like a time frame too, you know? Like...
Well, if it's a festival, it's going to run before the festival. So it's just going out of your way to get the Milford Times or whatever it is in that period of time. And you can figure out, it's usually once a week or whenever it runs, and you just pick up the copies. We've bought so many local papers that have nothing to do with our clients, and it's just wasted effort. But eventually we get the one that has it. Question over here? Yes.
I'm wondering if gifts are appropriate, like thank you gifts. I usually give them like a gift certificate for a free massage?
As long as it's not TV or the New York Times or something big like that, because then that's considered a bribe in buying media. And actually, when you go to TV, you usually have to sign off on a waiver that says that you haven't given them anything or paid them for this opportunity, that it's just a news opportunity. So it's tricky. You want to make sure that it doesn't in any way seem like it could be bribing media, because the good journalists really try to maintain that separation. So free press, news, all of that, they will not take freebies. They want, or they'll disclose it in the story because they want to be upfront about it. Smaller publications might.
Does it make a difference if it's after the story's been run, or is that irrelevant?
It depends on the journalist. It really does. So what I would do in that case is I would ask, I would really love to thank you for this opportunity. Would it be appropriate if I give you a gift card?
Yeah.
I don't want to compromise your integrity, so would that be okay? If not, totally cool. And then send some chocolates or send a handwritten note. Those things can't be considered a bribe.
Sure.
Nobody's going to put you on TV for chocolate. They'll eat it and they'll be grateful, but it's not a bribe.
Yeah.
But a massage would be,
I have an event Monday night, and doing this press release, how soon should I send it? Should I wait till Monday morning or do tomorrow?
Lead time is really good. I can't tell you how many clients I have who say, we have something happening tomorrow. Can you get TV crews there? And I'm like sweating through the night, and it's not breaking news. And it's always better to have some advance time. I don't know what the event is, but it's Monday morning. I would call some places because the weekend staff and the weekday staffs are usually different. But if you have a couple of outlets that you think would cover it, I would call that morning. I wouldn't even email, and I would just say, I know this is last minute. I understand if you're already booked. It didn't occur to me sooner, but I just wanted to put this in front of you in case it's of interest to cover it. And depending on what they say, if they come, great, it's a win. If they don't, say, no problem. Do you mind if I pitch you with a little more advance notice next time? Great, thank you so much. And then you send a quick little note. I'm big on those notes. I'm really big on it. Yeah. Can you pass it up to Julie? Mm-hmm.
How much advance notice should they have?
As much as,
Ideally.
well, okay, now not as much as you can give them. So this Habitat for Humanity signature event is November 21st. Anybody who wants to attend, I can get you tickets. It's a fantastic event. It's going to be in Birmingham on November 21st. I sent out the pitch last Tuesday. Okay, so what is that, 4 weeks, 3.5? Because it's local, that's appropriate. If you're pitching a magazine that's monthly, if it's a local magazine, they probably work 6 to 8 weeks ahead, and you'll find out tomorrow from Our Detroit. If you're pitching a national magazine, they work 3 to 6 months ahead. So you should be pitching now for spring coverage in national magazines. Mm-hmm. Unless there's something really breaking and newsworthy. That's what it is. So if you want, spring fashion, now is the time. But yeah, I would say 3 to 6 weeks advance notice for a local pitch. And just know the further out you are, the more follow-up you're gonna have to do.
So in response to the lead time, it also depends, because with a television crew, they may not make that decision till that morning. But if you're pitching it a week or two in advance, at least they'll have it. They can put it in their file for that period of time when they have their morning meeting or whatever it is to make decisions. If there's any breaking news, that usually, softer news gets pushed aside. But even if you're pitching 2 weeks out, whatever, they may not give you a response right away, so that follow-up's necessary. I'm coordinating a client interview on Wednesday, and it's actually for their January issue. But I pitched it a month and a half ago. And that's just a local, it's national, it's an automotive trade press publication. So, it's time that's required, and things can change. So.
That's really helpful. And with TV, it's true. We were doing a Habitat for Humanity home dedication, and we just forgot one of the local TV stations, and so we sent it that morning, and they're like, yeah, we're there. It happened to be a slow news day, and so at 2 o'clock, they were thrilled to have something and sent out a crew, which is pretty rare. A lot of times TV, they just don't have the wherewithal anymore to send their van and their camera person. So if you can bring someone into the studio, you're gonna have more success. And I find when I'm pitching things like a cooking segment, they'll take it and they'll book it a month in advance and slot it in. You know, this WDET interview with Fred Astaire Dance Studio, which is a radio interview. I think we pitched it. How long ago did we pitch that? 3 weeks ago. And so that's on the books, you know. Now, if something breaking happens, this is for the Craig Folly show, we might get shoved aside, or it might be taped in order to air another time. Yeah. Right, right, because it's not breaking news, but so they could schedule it. Jane, you had a question.
About the format of the press release for the boilerplate. As an author, that's my bio.
Yes, but you would start with, you know, a sentence about the book, and then about you. You know, this adds to, you know, your repertoire, et cetera, that kind of thing. You could Google author boilerplates and see what you like. I want to give us all like a pat on the back for time because it is exactly 4 o'clock. So how cool is that?